So I talk about the scars of dyslexia because they're often the things we don't see. I don't have time to talk about all of the research. So I've listed the things that the research has said that dyslexic and dyscalculic adults and children feel: anxiety, anger, a negative self-image, depression, a loss of confidence, disinterested in learning and unmotivated, and family problems. All of these can develop when children are left unsupported. And the worst thing is, it doesn't need to be this way. A school and teachers have the power to make a real positive difference to a person's academic achievement, but more importantly, to their entire life, their personality, and the choices they make. Next slide. So what do we do to ensure that our children thrive? Well, very briefly, because I want to speak more on the next slide, but very briefly, support is the most important. The research tells us having one supportive person in your life can make a real difference. This could be a parent, but often it's actually a teacher. So we need support. We need good differentiated education. We need assessment and testing of difficulties. We need to advocate for a child, but we not only advocate, but we need to teach a child to understand their own difficulties so they can self-advocate. We need to find a talent outside school, maybe sports or music or drama. And importantly, really importantly, we need to listen to the child's feelings. So I said this presentation was about schools. So what can the schools do? Next slide. First of all, I've written the acronym they need to teach. So the T stands for they need to train teachers to recognize dyslexia and dyscalculia in the classroom. And they need to teach teachers how to differentiate their lessons. We need early identification so that we can provide intervention for the child early. Remember the Matthew effect with the graph. Not only academic, but also emotionally that graph relates to. Schools need to identify early to maximize the chance of success. There's loads of research to show that the earlier screening takes place, the better it is for a child's and adults' self-esteem and life choices. In the UK, there are some studies that estimate that 50%, that's half of the prison population are dyslexic. And the research shows that only a very small proportion of these people were actually diagnosed with dyslexia in school. The majority of these people reported extremely negative experiences of school and very low self-esteem. So the elevated risk of mental health difficulties in younger children, coupled with the importance of self-acceptance and understanding around what it means to have dyslexia, emphasizes the real need for early identification, particularly in the younger school, in primary school. But it's not just primary school, because sometimes difficulties don't actually show themselves until later in schooling. So it's very important that schools are regularly assessing and testing to identify difficulties early. So this brings us into the next point, the A. The A is for assessment. Schools need to be conducting assessments formally and informally. That's necessary to monitor students' or children's achievement and progress. So at primary school, this is particularly important because it's at this time that it's crucial to find the children. Remember the Matthew effect. Because we need to be able to put interventions in place to stop them falling further behind, but also so that we can nurture their mental health. So putting in place a formal school structure around when and how to assess children will be very important. It's not good enough to leave teachers on their own to find children. They need structure. They need a framework to identify and monitor children. We also need to have specialised staff that can help conduct further in-depth assessment, and so that they can also support other teachers in the school. The C is for counselling. I think this is the most important. The emotional effects of dyslexia and dyscalculia are so large that we tend to focus on the academic side, but actually, if the emotional side is not healthy, no child is going to learn. So if we can look after the emotional side first, the academic side will follow. So support and intervention and counselling should be in school provided that tackles the mental health problems that go along with these learning difficulties. It doesn't have to be a trained counsellor, but even a teacher that understands the difficulties and has a supportive ear is great to give a child a chance. And the H is for help. Help educate parents about praising their children and having the right expectations of their children. Now, clearly the school is not the only place where the child is going to need support, because they also need that support at home. But actually, the school is often the place where a child feels most inadequate because they're exposed. At home, it's much easier to hide your difficulties, but in school, it's not. You're on show. You have nowhere to hide from your difficulties. They're noticeable to you, to your teachers sometimes, and to your peers. And this is what leads to the feeling of inadequacy and the mental health difficulties. So it's important that parents understand how to support their children with homework and in dealing with their school day. It can be very simple things like praising the child's effort instead of their end result. So never underestimate the power of the school and the school environment in both promoting the child's mental health, but also in damaging the child's mental health. The school's practice and the teacher's practice are so important. You can make a massive difference to a child's chances of academic achievement, but also of leading a positive and happy life. You do have the power to ensure that all children thrive. Next slide. This is my last slide. I want to just finish up with Stephanie. She was the lady that I showed you at the start. And it's really just the top line. Remember Stephanie's story. She said that she felt out of place. She felt alone. She felt stupid. But then she says, I had a teacher who was great and who really believed in me for my performing. She was interested in drama. The teacher encouraged her to go on and get an assessment for dyslexia, which she did. And the rest of Stephanie's story shows that she went on to develop her own business, to have children, and to lead a very happy life. The power of a supportive teacher and a supportive school cannot be emphasized enough. You can make a difference to somebody's life. Thank you.